All right. We are here for episode 3 of the Solos podcast. In episode 2, Joshua and I went into a perspective around the masculine, being devoted to the inner feminine and the inner mind. And for this episode, we wanted to have Debra on because we wanted to go into the other perspective of the feminine, the female, being devoted to their internal state, the type of masculine they're devoted to. And so we wanted to get both sides. And Joshua and I did an episode on Alchemy of Love, which is a podcast that she has. And so we're just kind of bouncing back and forth. And we were able to ask her questions to understand more of the feminine perspective, I think, on things that men want to ask females a lot, but don't get the chance to. And so maybe you'll have some of those questions come up as well. But we have a lot of really good notes. And yeah, so thanks for joining us, Debra.
Yes, and for those that don't know, I'm his wife.
Oh, yeah, sorry, people might not know that.
Because most people probably will know me from the stuff we do together, but there may also be people that don't know me.
Very true.
So,
Very true.
yep,
I just kind of assumed.
didn't just walk in here and
Yeah. Yeah, I met her yesterday at the gas station. I was asking her some questions about females.
And I said, "Yeah, let me just."
She said, "Do you want me to come over? Do a podcast episode with you?" I said,
Don't
"Yeah,
know you, but
let's do it."
okay, let's do it.
Well, we're here with Joshua. So hello, Joshua.
Hello, yeah, it's good to be here. Good to see you guys. I'm excited about this. This is a continuation of our sacred union theme and masculine feminine energy, and it's going to be great to get the feminine perspective today. So looking forward to that. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, I got these notes. Is there anything that anyone has on their mind that they want to throw into the space that they want to start with?
Maybe I quickly want to say something, and I think we may have mentioned this in the other podcast that we did on the alchemy of love. That, and I'm noticing this in a lot of people when they're not even noticing this, women, that they have often an internalized hatred or resentment towards the masculine, and they're not aware of it. And then they're trying to bring this man in, and they're like, "Oh, why am I not meeting a good man?" But it's like you have this built-in distrust of the masculine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm noticing that a lot. And I've had conversations with other friends about this, where we have really gone into it in the layers where we still had this maybe, and then really talked about it to each other. Like maybe this is still subconsciously a little layer of this. And then by speaking about this with other women, that's how we're gonna like reveal this and see it for what it is. And there's a lot of women that don't really even go there because then they're like complaining to each other without really looking at what is their part in this. And I know maybe some women are going to be triggered when they hear this, but I think we all need to look at it, and also in an ancestral way, like where was your mother maybe not trusting men? Where was your grandmother not trusting men? How are you subconsciously now repeating the program?
That was really big for me to work through with females, like me not trusting women deep down in my body, in my subconscious, in my unconscious, and I had to directly go into working with that. And there's still times when I'll feel parts of my body that will be holding that, the leftover trauma and the leftover generational stuff. And so it's definitely something that doesn't have a space right now for men and women to talk to each other about how they feel in those dynamics, like directly to each other without pointing the finger and blaming, basically.
And getting defensive. Yeah, that's why conversation is so important, is just to hold the space for the other person to work through some of these things. Because I think about, there might be some females that watch this and say, oh, poor other females. They might not think it's about them, or that they have that, that hidden anger. So, I was wondering, maybe this is a question for both of you, but in particular, Deborah. like if you're watching this and you want to even know that you have some sort of thing there with the masculine and you want to uncover it, you want to move it from the subconscious to the conscious, are there questions that you ask yourself? Like, how do you know? How do you discover what your relationship is with the masculine?
It will come up in my body. And a good example is when you were staying with us, then it's like, oh yeah, there's a different person. It's a whole different dynamic. And I also made some videos about this, like, okay, how are you subconsciously making yourself smaller, and why are you making yourself smaller? And that can be in when there's conversation happening and you and Ryan are talking, and then I'm like, if I would say, oh, I'm just gonna not say anything because then I am not in danger. And that is basically the program that's running, but that's not going to be the thing that I'm actively thinking. Like, oh, if I don't speak, I'm not in danger. But I've worked through that a lot, so that didn't really come up with you, and also because I felt safe with both of you, obviously. But then I started thinking a lot of, I see this, that women will then kind of say, oh, they like automatically put themselves in the background and they kind of move invisibly and they're like, oh, I'm just in the background. So I'm not in your way, kind of. Yeah.
And so when you say it shows up in your body, is that like is there a particular body part? Is it a sensation? Like how would you describe that part of it?
I think in the past, because of course, for those that don't know, I was in an abusive marriage before I met him, so a decade ago. And the way that I would walk, the way that my whole body language would be very closed off. So
Mm.
I would basically close myself off physically, make myself smaller, and make myself, because I'm pretty tall, so I would make myself smaller physically, basically
Yeah, so
around men.
I kind of see it as the polarity of there's either expansion happening or contraction. Like you want to show up and like open up, right? And that's
Yeah.
when you feel safe. And then when
Mm.
you don't, you like close up that shows up in different forms, but like what that sensation is to close
Mhm.
up like that. And yeah, I also want to touch upon the part of this where you can trace it to an origin point, right? So you have a time in your life where you can point to and say, well, the masculine is dangerous, or I did have a terrible, like you feel justified in your experience, right? And I think what we're getting at is we just want to stop that perpetuation of it. And it takes something to get out of that cycle. And some of us like wait until the external circumstances change, but that's not really how this works. It starts internal.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I see a lot of women that were in toxic situations, that were maybe in dangerous domestic violence situations like I was, and they stay in the loop. They stay in the loop and they have oh, men are dangerous. Men are tricking you. Men are deceiving you. And then they meet another person and it begins again. And suddenly this man does it again. And they're like, see, this is how they are. They're all
Yeah.
like this and this
Hmm.
and this and this. And I really looked at the situation, and the situation was not all men are dangerous. Most men are actually not dangerous. It's this idea that that is circulating. Like, oh yeah, there's this meme too of like, would you want to bump into a man in the woods or a bear? And women are all saying the bear. And I feel that that is, like, I would much rather bump into just a random guy hiking than a bear.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. So yeah,
That's crazy.
I feel men are also not being heard, and they are, like, women don't even want to hear what they have to say often.
Yeah, in my previous relationship where we ended up getting married, that was a really big problem for her, was she had this deep subconscious distrust towards the masculine, and it would show up in just it was when we started going through like spiritual awakening stuff, and it's like she would mentally get influenced about me and about my intentions, and so she would start looking for things to like confirm that distrust basically. And it was these loops of over and over and over again of having the same conversation and of coming to what felt like a middle ground, and then all of a sudden it would be the same thing again. And it's because in these akashic layers in her energy bodies, she had trauma with men, and it's like it was projecting onto me, and that was a really big, that was like hurtful for me, because it was like there wasn't anything that I could do that would actually allow that trust to fully come to me. And so it was this really big just gap of like there's nothing I can do to to create that trust. Like it's on the other person at that point to an extent. You know, someone, you have to be safe and you have to be comfortable with them. Well, once they're holding that safety, the other person has to be willing to meet them where that middle ground is. And I think for me, working through my subconscious distrust towards women and also towards men, I've had a lot towards men as well. It's just admitting when it's there. Like it's such a difficult process to do so much healing and then have it trigger again. You know, it's like I did all this work, I did all, and it's like, and it's happening again. And what we want to not fully admit or fully feel that level of distrust that might be there, that might be coming up from the body, because we don't want to put ourselves back in that place of thinking that we're distrusting again. And so it's like the process of being willing to feel when that distrust comes up, when it's happening in the moment, when you're being triggered. I think that's the biggest like key for me throughout the process.
And whatever comes up in that process is supposed to be what's there, right? And I wrote down a few things like frustration or anger, or even apathy, right? I've been there several times, like this again, like I'm not going back into this. I'm done with this. I've already addressed this. And like right there, you can hear the anger in my voice. So there's like, it's unlocking different emotions every time you do it. And the best way to navigate it, in my opinion, is to just feel it, right? And what you're saying, just be honest about it and then go through it. Because once you do that, that's actually what's been preventing or perpetuating the circumstances, is you not feeling those emotions. So when they come up, and that could be the role of the partner, is just hold space for that person to, you know, express the anger or express the apathy. And sometimes that's uncomfortable, but once you do that, you move through it and it's expressed. It doesn't have to be, it's not stuck anymore, right? And so those situations will slowly start to stop perpetuating themselves.
You mentioned like women not wanting to hear men or listen to them fully.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
I think because we're in this time where women are using their voice more and more, and they feel, and of course I don't mean all women, I'm just speaking to a general trend that I'm seeing, that they feel like, oh, men don't have a right to complain because you have oppressed us women for centuries. So there's nothing you should be complaining about. We're the victims here, when both are actually the victims of a society that is out of harmony, that is not in balance, where women are not, they're not really seeing the weight that is on men's shoulders and the expectations. And at the same time, men are maybe also not really listening to what women have gone through and the ancestral layers that they are now unpacking. But the same goes for men. And I had something else and now it's gone. Oh, yeah. That I think some women may be afraid that if they try to open up to men, that they immediately get defensive and that it turns into an argument. Because a lot of men, because they have so much weight on their shoulders, because they have all the expectations, they immediately feel, I'm not good enough again. You are again saying this. I'm doing my best. And so that all comes pouring out. And so a lot comes down to communication without pointing the finger, which is something that we all really haven't learned. Nobody's really learned this, because what we see at home usually is parents that are arguing and pointing the finger. Most people, they have parents, our generation, we have parents that don't know how to openly communicate without projecting. And so that's why then both of us want to talk. Like, the men have so much to say to the women have so much to say to the men. And before we realize it, it's like we have a shield up and we're like defending ourselves against the other, when all we want to do is connect.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like, how do we talk about these things? And we're figuring it out. That's what we are all doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
Well, I think that's just right in line with what the feminine is devoted to, what internally, because when we were talking about the masculine being devoted internally, it's like the masculine's devoted to the internal feminine and the internal masculine, but it's like, to balance it out, the masculine essence has to take inspiration and direction from that feminine essence. And so in the same way that that happens with men, then that's happening with women. So it's like, this is where we pose the questions of what are they actually devoted to internally, and where is that sense of dedication coming from? Because there's a lot of people and women who think that they're dedicated to um, this life where they deserve this man that fits these expectations and these roles, but they keep attracting the same man and they keep attracting these things, and so it becomes, then why are they attracting that over and over, and why is that causing them to perpetuate those patterns that you were just talking about?
I think when I just look at myself, you have to find all the stuff you're looking for as a woman. You're looking for all these things in a man. He needs to do this, he needs to do all these things, be all these things. He has to be a good listener, he has to blah, 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 all these things. And the thing is, I was looking for this in all these people when I was not even connected with myself. Once I became my own good listener and I became my own best friend, and all the stuff that I was trying to find in these other people, I was like, okay, I'm going to find all this in myself. I'm going to get so familiar with what this feels like in myself so that I can recognize it, really recognize it in another person. And then you're going to immediately see, oh, okay, if you meet someone, oh, you are not really as good of a listener as I am to myself. Why would I, what is the value?
Mhm.
And that may seem a little harsh, but it's like, what value do you add as a man to my life? If I am my own best friend, you need to be as good of a friend to me as I am to myself. If you are not going to do that, I'm not going to be all upset and crying and collapsing. It is what it is, because I'm okay on my own. And then you're automatically going to attract people that are in the same frequency with themselves. So you kind of become your own masculine protector.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
think this is the key to the whole episode. This is where the change actually starts, is when you provide it for yourself. Because that's my definition of a projection. Whatever you're perceiving externally that you want or is not fulfilling you is actually what your internal is not,
Mhm.
is not there. So you need to learn how to give that to yourself. That's how you are in integrity with yourself, so that when you go to um, command it from a partner, you know what it looks like, you know what it doesn't look like, and then you also know maybe like how to lead them out of whatever they're stuck in, and you can
Mhm.
hold that space for them, and it becomes very powerful. So you give it to yourself. I think a lot of people in relationships are looking for the partner to provide this thing for them. When once you provide it for yourself, then it will show up in that way, but it can't happen any other way. It needs to happen internal first.
Yeah. It's like setting the bar for yourself. And those ideals are necessary because they can be reached. Like a man who's going to listen, who's going to be present, who's going to be devoted to the relationship. Like all of those things exist, but it's just like you guys are saying, if it's not, you're going to try to be over supplementing it with someone else, and it's just going to continue to reflect that relationship with yourself.
Yeah, and for me, that can get demoralizing or exhausting to real like with people who have done a lot of work, there's always more. So it can get like, kind of exhausting to but it's only when you adopt, like that's how I operate. Like that's my way of viewing the world, is like whatever I'm perceiving, I immediately go internal, examine myself, ask questions, like really know what my intentions are. And that's like the purification of everything. And that is the devotion you were talking about, Ryan. Like if I am devoted to that as the masculine, it's the inner feminine devotion to listening to what I'm actually wanting and desiring and why I want it, and trace it back to like where that came from. And once I know all those things, and I don't want to say all because it's never a progressing process, but it's the self-study that creates the fertile ground for these sacred unions in the external to happen. And it's worth it. That's what I'll tell people. Like as much work as is needed to do that, it's very rewarding. It's very rewarding to have this self-command of your inner being, and then to be able to commune with the opposite sex or whatever partner you have, right? It's rewarding. It's great. Look at you guys sitting on the couch there, right? Having a good
It's very rewarding.
Yeah.
Very rewarding. We went on our morning walk today. I woke up to do it for the first time, and it is a
The
success.
first time in a year that we've gone on a morning walk.
Early morning walk. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. You gave me inspiration. You were out with us. You unlocked a new rhythm within
He's
me.
been getting up really early. Yep.
And so what did it feel like? Why was it rewarding, or why did it feel good?
Just to do it, just to get up. I mean, going outside, being with her, just like it feels good to have more time. It feels like throughout the day I have more time now.
Mm.
This is a great
So,
example, actually, to
yeah.